ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति. So we have completed the chapter till now. The strength of emotion was the last chapter we covered. So basically what we have covered till now is at the level of how to apply the knowledge of Vedanta in our day-to-day life. So we covered at the level of the physical body. What do we do? How to make our actions more meaningful, more purposeful. And that was the last to last chapter. And the last chapter we covered was the sixth chapter was the strength of emotion, where we discussed about how to convert our emotions into our strength, how not to make it a weakness, which is application of our intellect. So the previous chapter, which was the action, it was how to gain the knowledge, apply the knowledge in our day-to-day life, how to be sacrificial, how to be thoughtful, how to have a higher goal, a purpose in our action. And in the last chapter, we did how to understand our emotions and guide it so that it becomes our strength, not become a victim of our emotion. Emotions are lovely, but when we are not in control of our emotions, we become a victim. That is the weakness. So, how to make it a strength? So, today's topic is the light of wisdom. Here we are talking about intellect. So, we covered the body, we covered the mind, now we are covering the intellect. At the level of intellect, at the level of knowledge, at the level of information, how do we approach life? How do we approach Vedanta so that it is not merely knowledge and information, but we can convert it into a transformation of our personality? How the knowledge can help us in our change of the personality. That is the session, that is the topic for this chapter, Light of Wisdom. So it starts with veil of ignorance. To understand the first level of requirement to gain knowledge is to understand that we are ignorant. We do not know. Only then there is a scope of learning. If we believe that we know, there is no learning. So, trouble with most folks is not so much their ignorance, but believing in so many things which ain't so. There is a quotation which comes sometime later, it will be there, which talks about this concept of we believe that we know it, and because of that belief, we are not open to learning, receiving information, knowledge in life. So trouble with most folks is not so much the ignorance. If it was ignorance, we gain knowledge, information, we are okay with it. But that's not the problem. We believe that we know. And since we keep that belief, the ego that I know, there is no scope of learning. So it is important that we recognize our ignorance and then we are open to receiving information, knowledge. The vast ignorance we are steeped in, we don't know where we are coming from, we don't know where we are going, we don't know when we are going, we don't know why we are here, what are we supposed to do. There's so many factors around us which we are not aware of. And we are blissfully unaware and we take it for granted. We accept it, it's fine, it doesn't matter. The answer is not that critical. It's not a priority in our life. And because of that, we lead a life of complete ignorance. We are steeped in ignorance and we lead our life in that ignorance. It's like, imagine we are in a dark room and we are not even aware that there is a possibility of switching off a light. We accept this is the way to live life. This is what it is. we hit the furnitures, we injure ourselves, we hurt ourselves, all that is going on, and we are okay with it. We are complacent about it. We don't even try to look for a way to get light in the picture, because we don't know that there is a possibility, there is a avenue, it is also an option. We don't know. So we keep living in the darkness, steeped in darkness, and we are comfortable with that darkness. So if somebody asks a question, we tend to, not only that we don't question, we tend to put the other person also off. We don't encourage those questions. It can be children, it can be people around us. We don't want them to ask fundamental questions in life because simply we don't have an answer. Here is a knowledge which indicates that it is important that we see the vastness of ignorance, we recognize it, and the next topic talks about how to gain wisdom. So this topic is talking about the veil of ignorance. There is but one reality, the Supreme God, the omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent Brahman, beyond the sphere of time, space, and causation. Though all pervading, God is located in the self within, just as a government spread all over the country is located in its capital. The philosophy of Vedanta gradually instills the knowledge of the self by which you transcend the limitation of your body, mind, intellect, and merge with your supreme self. You regain your infinite being. So, what he's saying is the reality alone exists. In the next paragraph, it explains about the concept of the reality. What is this reality? There's an example, which is a rope and snake example, a very famous example in the scripture. Now, what he is saying is that reality, Brahman, God alone exists. It is beyond the sphere of time, space, and causation. All the experiences we are going through in the world is defined by time, space, and causation. So the reality is not confined to this. The consciousness is not confined to time, space, and causation. It's beyond it. So God is located in the self within. Now, when they say within, the word within is very, we need to understand the essence of it. Where do you go inside? It's a very tricky word. And that's why it gets misinterpreted and misunderstood in the world. So when they say within, what they're saying is that there is a fundamental mistake in our understanding of the world. World is not as we believe it to be. It is merely a projection. It is merely an imaginary creation. It is not there. It's not as we expect it to be. So we need to analyze it, verify it for ourselves. We don't accept anybody. But they are saying, these masters are saying, that the experience we are having of the world based on time, space, and causation. What is our world? We are based on time, a particular time. We say, when are we born? At a particular time. When do I die? At a particular time. Now, or space in a particular area. Causation. Cause and effect is binding my actions, my emotions, my thoughts. But the reality is beyond it. So our understanding of the world, it is real. This is what it is. There's nothing more, nothing less about it. This is why we are complicating it. Our experiences is what life is all about. What we need to verify is carefully analyze the limitation of our perceptions. At the level of the eye, there's a limitation of the sight, how much what we can see. Beyond and above the spectrum, we can't see. At the level of so we are talking about perception, eye, ear, nose, tongue, and skin. At all level of our perception, what defines our world is made by our perceptions. each level of our perceptions, if we analyze, there's limitation. The limited perceptions we have. I can see a particular, within a particular frame, spectrum of light. Before and above, it can't see. Ear can hear a particular decibels. Before and after, it can't hear. The touch, the taste, there's a limitation. Now, what we believe the world to be for us is based on our limited perception of the world. And we believe this is what it is, which is where the fallacy is. It cannot be a limited world. What we are seeing is limited world because the perception is limited, because my understanding of the world is defined by my perception of the world, how I see the world. And what I see is limited, what I experience is limited, so my understanding of the world is limited. So they're saying that there has to be a better understanding. There is something beyond what we are seeing. Now, what is that? The question comes down to, okay, fine, we don't understand the self, we don't know the self. So he says, to locate it, you have to go to the core within the personality. And that's the example given. The government of the country is throughout the country. Even the territorial water belongs to the government. But if I want to reach to the government, I have to go to the center, the capital. So unless and until, yes, the government pertained is existing throughout the country, but if I have to reach, I have to go to the core, the capital. Similarly, God pervades everything, the entire experiences, and is beyond it. It's not restricted to it. But if I want to understand the reality, God, I have to go within myself. Within will mean I have to understand the core of my personality, that which is the source of my personality, that which gives life to my personality, to this individuality. This individuality is mere projection. There is the eye cannot see a sight without the life-giving principle, the consciousness. The ear cannot hear, taste, touch, it cannot experience unless the consciousness is there. At the level of the mind, we cannot have any emotion unless the consciousness is there, backing it up. Unless and until we are conscious of an emotion, there is no emotion. And same exists at the level of thinking. We need to be conscious of our thinking, thoughts. Only then there is a world, experience of the thought. So if we are not conscious, then it's not there. For all purpose, it's not there. So at the body, mind, and intellect, what is that? So what creates my individuality is the awareness of the body, mind, and intellect. What is that which is the source of that awareness? The core of the awareness. That is called as the pure consciousness. So if I have to locate that, I have to go within my personality, which means I have to go back to that which is making me see, that which is making me feel different emotions, that which is making me think different thoughts. That's what is meant by going within our personality. From extroverted interest, turn introvert. Extroverted is when we are interested in the world. How can I get something at the level of the physical body? Perceptions. It can be sight, it can be food, taste, it can be touch. All this I'm trying to look for in the world. Emotions. I like people who like me. I don't like people who hate me. I'm attached to people. All this happening at the level of the emotions. But I need to shift my focus from the feelings and emotions and attachments to what is making me feel. That is reality. Right now, we are talking about reality, thought. God is not a concept, it's not an idea. You can't think about God. That which makes us think is the reality. So we need to go within, which means we have to trace back to the core, the source of the awareness of the thought. So when we stay with the thought, we are automatically carried away by it. We see it good, bad, indifferent. But when we go back to the source, we try and go back within, try and understand what is the source, where is it coming from. It is called as introversion, it is called as objectivity. When you're observing your thoughts, you're not getting carried away by the thoughts. Now what happens is, good and bad is the expression. We get carried away by the expressions. But when we go to the core and start questioning that fundamental expression, that is when we are going within the person. That is what is meant by going within the personality, because that word within is a very tricky word. Since the knowledge, the self is not known, it can be misunderstood in various ways. Mind is very deadly. It has a potential to project anything. So what happens is, when we go to the unknown realm, the tendency of the mind is to start projecting things, imagining things, hallucinating things. That's what happens in the spiritual path. People start seeing light, people start seeing, they're serious, they're genuine. They may be actually trying to find the reality. But in the process, since we are not cautious about the mind, it starts projecting within the projection. The movie Inception, it's a beautiful movie where it talks about different level of projection. He goes to the dream. Within the dream, there is another dream. Within that, there is another dream. And then how he comes out of it. It's a very beautiful way of conceptualizing it. It's complicated, but it is a very beautiful way of conceptualizing it. Similarly, if we are caught up in the dream, there is no way we can wake up. So what happens is, even in the spiritual field, there is a tendency that we start, with all sincerity, we start probing into the unknown with unknown terms, with which is fascinating, and we get stuck there. I'm still on the word within. So with that understanding of within, there's a lot of variables involved in it. So it is important that we define things and not make it mysterious. Make it clear. It is defined by time, space, and causation. Yes, the core, the self is unknown, but it will be known as we keep progressing towards it. We don't have to accept and start imagining anything by ourselves. Keep moving the direction. See the word omnipotent. All powerful. Omnipotent means all powerful, potency. Omniscient, all pervading, omnipresent, everywhere there. Now, how do you understand these words? These are for contemplation. This is for understanding, this is for reflection. Deeper reflection thinking is contemplation. So these words help us to give the direction of the thought. But when we start defining the thought, then it becomes a problem. As long as we are not defining the thought, we are still in the safe ground. When we say infinite, God is infinite mercy. Infinite is beyond the intellect. Then what happens is, we start imagining something and we start believing in something, and then we get into problem. So how do we understand these unknown terms, unknown words define it to the extent possible. Don't have to end it there. These are definitions which are indicative definition. Very important to note. You cannot define God. God is not a concept of definition. It cannot be defined. A very beautiful example given on the later part, which explains in mathematics. Now, if you want to know the distance, you want to know where the point is, point X. So you have been given it is 5 meter from this point B, 6 meter from point C, 7 meter from point A. Now, based on those parameters, we draw a graph, we draw a line, and then we get a point. So all these 3 points, which was a reference point for the main point, right? So these reference points are not the answer. God is not an answer. God is just, you assume an answer to start the process of derivation. In mathematics, you assume, let the height of the room be X. X is not an answer. You have to derive the answer. Similarly, God is infinite mercy. God is infinite love. God is omnipotent, omnipresent, omnipresent. These are just indicative definition. If we start defining that this is God, then we are making a mistake. And when we start defining it, then the mind starts imagining things. So we need to be in control of the mind throughout the journey. The tendency of, in the spiritual path, why we are taking time to explain this idea, because in the spiritual path, there is a tendency of defining things. You want some expression. That's why God is there. The concept of God, a deity, is to define God. This is God, which is fine. But you can't say this is God, this is all is God. No. God is not locked in the church or a temple or a mosque. It's not something, when you define God, you defy God. You are limiting the reality. Reality is not limited to words. Words are for our reference point because it is pertaining to what we understand. But reality is beyond our understanding. So how do we progress it? Is by slowly clearing our ignorance, and what remains is knowledge. Example, there is light everywhere. Sunlight is there. We put a shade and we put a room and we say there is darkness. Light is everywhere. Sunlight is there. But we create that finite room and it is dark. Now, how to get back sunlight? Just remove that finite walls, finite roof, sunlight is there. Similarly, ignorance is our creation. Reality is always there. Reality has no limitation. We have limited ourselves to this, confined to ourselves to this body, mind, intellect. What is the world all about? What I see is what the world is all about. What I feel is the world is all about. What I think is the world all about. There's nothing beyond what I see, feel, think. To that they're saying, they're questioning, is that so? Find out. Just because we have a limited perception, understanding of the world, don't conclude the world is this all about. This is what's world about. There's nothing more to it. That is ignorance. That is the veil of ignorance we are complacent about. Moment we start questioning, is there something beyond what we experience? Is there something beyond what we see, what we feel, what we think? We are probing into the area of the unknown. And the only point to be cautious about is don't define anything in that area. slowly gain the knowledge. They are talking about the absolute. They have seen the ultimate. They have experienced it, and they are giving it us to benefit for humanity. So it can be Christ, Krishna, Mahavir, Buddha, Krishna. All these self-realized masters are talking about the truth. And it is in our interest not to accept it blindly, but keep questioning and try to go the path, move to the direction. And slowly, as we keep moving, we get a better understanding of our concepts. We are nearing the reality. So, ignorance of the rope reality projects the pluralistic phenomena of the world, just as the ignorance of the rope lying in the dark projects an illusory snake. It is the reality, Brahman alone, that appears to you as the universe. The creation of the universe, therefore, is brought about by the ignorance of your intrinsic primal nature. With the dawn of knowledge of your true self, the entire world folds back. You merge with the supreme, all-pervading reality. What he's saying is very, very useful or very subtle concept. This is a authentic reference of a rope and a snake given the scripture. So what they're saying is, imagine a child comes back running with the fear that there's a snake. Snake bit me. Now, he came from the room was dark, he went in and he hit something, he felt it was snake, and he felt that whatever it was, it actually bit him, and the child is crying, child is screaming, and it believes that it's being bitten by the snake, and the poison is rising. All that drama is going on. And what you do is, you just take the child inside the room and you switch on the light. There was a rope. You remember you left a rope. Square rope. It has a spikes, coming out. So the child hit that rope and it assumed it to be a snake. And because of that assumption, it started believing that the poison is actually rising. This is the problem. The seriousness of the problem is, first level of problem is, I don't see a snake. I don't see a rope. I see a snake, which is the problem. Of course, I need to see the reality as it is. I don't see the reality as it is. I see something different than what it is. Right? So I don't see the rope as a rope, which is the problem. I see, instead of a rope, I see a snake. Right? I assume it to be a snake. I imagine it to be a snake, right? Which is a problem. But the bigger problem is not only that I am so firmly sure about the rope being a snake, I also believe that I am disturbed, I am hurt, I am injured by the snake. But the fact remains, the rope can never injure the person. Rope can never bite the person. There cannot be any poison in the rope. So, how do you remove the ignorance? The only way to remove ignorance is knowledge. How do you remove darkness? The only way to remove darkness, you in the dark room, you take the vacuum cleaner, you take the cobweb stick, you take the broom, all that you take. But it cannot remove the darkness. The only way to remove the darkness, only antidote to darkness, as it says in Atma Bodhavana scripture, is light. Similarly, only opposite of ignorance is knowledge of the self. So, moment we have the knowledge of the absolute, all that problem pertaining to the world disappears. Moment you have the knowledge of the rope, all the problems pertaining to the snake disappears. because it was never there. I imagined the problem. I was suffering from the problem. And just when the knowledge came of the rope, everything disappeared. So all the trauma we go through in life, all the agitation, depression, stress, disturbances, everything disappears when we know the reality. All the agitation, disturbances, problem, all that we go through in the dream, it disappears moment we wake up. All that was stressful in the dream, it's when we wake up, it's gone. It's no more the same intensity, right? It disappeared. Where did it go? Is it that everything was sorted, everything was, aligned? All the effort we put is to sort out our life. If this is sorted, my life is sorted. Child's education, child's marriage, it can be wealth, it can be all these other conditions we have given, believing if only this is sorted, my life is sorted. This is the only problem in my life. Whereas, so obviously, since we believe that to be a problem, all the effort is to solve that problem in the world. Whereas Vedanta says that was never the problem. As long as poison is the problem, snake's poison is the problem, the solution will be pertaining to that. Where do we get which snake was it? How do we give an antivenom? How do we help him out? Where do we, all that is solution pertaining to an imaginary problem. Fundamentally, he was never bitten by the snake in the first place. So that is the knowledge. So similarly, moment we gain or even we pursue the knowledge, we suspect the knowledge. Is it so? Are we really affected because of the situation, circumstances around us? Are we really stressed out because of the people around us? We need to question every aspect of life. What is disturbing in it? Why is it agitating me? Is it actually the problem or my involvement in the problem? What can be done? How can be solved? So, moment we start going to the root of problem, automatically we are approaching it to solve it. Otherwise, we start creating further more problems based on something which is not even there. So, the creation of the universe, therefore, is brought about by the ignorance of your intrinsic primal nature. You are the self, you are the reality. Snake, the rope alone exists. It was never that the snake came. It was the ignorance of the rope created an imaginary snake. Snake was never there. Similarly, ignorance of our intrinsic primal nature created a pluralistic world and the projection, the whole thing. With the dawn of knowledge of true self, the entire world folds back. You merge with the supreme reality. The ignorance of self keeps you in darkness all through your life. Groping in self-created, deluded world, you get the knocks and shocks of life. Imagine yourself moving about in a room plunged in darkness. You would strike against niches and notches, fittings and furnitures, and injure yourself. So too, you grope in the ignorance in the world and suffer the pangs of sorrow and misery. The solution to this problem is to bring light into the room, the light of wisdom into your bosom. Gain the knowledge of your supreme self. It is the ignorance that converts the kingdom of heaven into veritable hell. You may use your body to enjoy sensual pleasures, your mind to indulge with emotional joys, your intellect to entertain with knowledge. They may give you some temporary satisfaction, no more. These material equipments cannot provide you with enduring peace and happiness. The knowledge of self alone can reach you to that eternal abode of bliss. So, this is the only way we can remove the ignorance. The veil of ignorance, we need to recognize what we are going through. And moment we recognize it, the direction, the approach has to be to remove the ignorance. The only way to remove is the knowledge of the absolute, knowledge of the higher, knowledge of self. The ignorance of self generates endless desire, and desire develop into several modifications like greed, lust, delusion, arrogance, envy, hatred, anger at the gross level, or into aim, ambition, aspiration at the subtler level. This we have covered earlier when we discussed about how the desires are formed. Desire, definition of desire is thought flow to the world. You are complete, you are absolute, called paripurna. Moment we are ignorant of our fulfillment, of our fullness, of our completeness, the thoughts go to the world to fulfill that imaginary void experience within. I repeat, you are complete, you are fulfilled, you are paripurna. That's a reality. You are the self. Since you do not understand the real nature, the self, the ignorance of the understanding of the totality, the fulfillment, fulfilled personality, the thoughts go to the world to fulfill it, fill it. Those thought flow to the world is called as desires. So, as long as we have desires, as long as we are pursuing the desires, it keeps on breeding furthermore. It's endless. There's no end to it. And it has different modifications. So if we want to handle desires, we discussed earlier, it has to be having a higher goal, purpose, and the rest of it. Here he says, all these passions hold you a hostage to the world. You are thereafter bound in the terrestrial realm of desire and ambition. The way out of your bondage and consequent suffering is to dispel the darkness of ignorance. The knowledge of yourself provides the light of wisdom, which discharges your desires and worldly clingings. This light glows eternally within you. Light you are, you need not seek or pray for light. You gain the light through study, reflection, contemplation upon the truths of life laid down in Vedanta. Approach them freely, independently, with no bias. Let your intellect examine, analyze, and accept the truths on their own merit. The process of learning will gradually unveil the self within. The knowledge of self thus dispels ignorance, resurrects your divine being. So, you are that reality, but the ignorance of the reality creates the world and the involvement in the world. So the only way to go about is by reflection, thinking, contemplation on these higher values of life, on Vedanta, that helps us to probe into the unknown realm. Slowly, we keep moving towards that unknown, making it a known reality. Knowledge and ignorance differ in degree, not in kind. The higher rung of the ladder is knowledge, while the lower is ignorance. They are relative terms like light and darkness. Light and darkness are also different in degree, not in kind. The electric light is bright compared to a dullness of a candlelight. The same electric light becomes dull with respect to the sunlight. Light and darkness, knowledge and ignorance, therefore, are like positive and negative terms used in mathematics along the x-axis or y-axis. A point is said to be positive with respect to the negative side. The same point becomes negative with reference to the positive side. Similarly, the knowledge you possess is considered as knowledge only with respect to the lower level of knowledge. The same would be viewed as ignorance with reference to the higher level of knowledge. Therefore, all knowledge acquired in the world falls in the realm of ignorance. So what he's saying is that we need to keep progressing towards the reality, right? Knowledge of the self. So there will be an area of ignorance. So knowledge and ignorance, it goes together. It's a gradation of knowledge. Light and darkness, it's not there's only light and there's no only darkness. There is a gradation of the progress. So to the extent we reflect, we understand, we think, we are able to get a grasp of the reality. To that extent, we have knowledge, but still there is a level of ignorance, darkness. So it is a process of reflection which is alone going to help us to get more and more into the knowledge, the light. So that gradation is a natural phenomenon. In other words, it's not suddenly overnight you wake up and you become self-realized. It doesn't work like that. There is a constant effort we have to put. Cumulative effect is you become better in terms of handling the situation, circumstances. All this is the experiences you may have. What is the sign of spiritual growth? Sign of spiritual growth is you don't have that intensity of the affectation of the world. The world doesn't affect you so intensely. How does it work? Why is it so? Same world, same people. Why is it not hitting that strong? Because you are gaining a knowledge of the world. So gradually you are gaining the knowledge, not suddenly you get to know. So more the knowledge, less the affectation. One in a generation reaches the ultimate reality. Now, how are we going to reach that ultimate? So there is no point of the knowledge. If it was only when you reach the ultimate, you get peace of mind. Then there's no point because it's a long journey. Like Rumi says, when will you start that long journey within yourself? When will you start that long journey within yourself? It's a long journey. So if we say that only when you reach the ultimate, you experience the peace of mind or the ultimate reality or the ultimate enjoyment, then there's no point because that's a long journey. So what they're saying is, it is not 0 and 1. There's a gradation in between. That is the journey. That's a spiritual journey where we are slowly, gradually reflecting on these higher truths of life and applying it, verifying for ourselves. Don't accept anything for granted. Don't take it for granted. And verifying it slowly, gradually, and we keep moving in direction. That is giving us a better quality of life. That's what we see, a peace of mind. Same experiences, the intensity is not the same because you have a better knowledge. Right now, why the world suffers? Because they do not have any other knowledge. This is what the world is all about. So they get affected, influenced by the experiences. When you have a better quality of knowledge, higher knowledge, you don't get affected. Make it simple. What are they saying? A child playing with the monopoly money, paper money they're playing. So your son is playing with that paper money and his friend is so at home, his friend you're playing is also there. Both of them, both the kids are playing with the paper money, monopoly. How serious they are, how involved they are in that experience of whatever they're playing. What is the intensity of the involvement you have for that game? Right? You also see it's a nice game. Okay, you enjoy it. One fine Sunday evening, you want to spend time with the kid, you play with him. It's fine. So his friend is cheating in the game. Your son gets irritated, agitated, right? Angry. He loses himself. You also saw that boy cheating, his friend cheating. How did you react? That's what is meant by growth. Why do you react differently? Because you have a higher understanding, higher knowledge. It was a knowledge. Since the boy, your son, does not have any higher knowledge, he believes this is the be all and end all of life. This game is everything for him, right? But since you have a higher understanding, you understand this is not right. You should not be cheating in the game. That's not right. But you don't lose yourself. You're not crying. You're not howling. You're not can't eat, can't talk. You're not going through that trauma. But the child, poor thing, he has to go through that trauma just because he's ignorant, innocent, doesn't have the knowledge. Similarly, how these great masters look at us is like how we look at our son playing a Monopoly. What are the toys which makes our joys? Name, fame, power, position, family, children, all these are the toys which is so valuable for us. And these masters, they look at us and says, poor thing, they just don't know. Balaha, there's a word called Balaha, means children. They are spiritual infant. They just don't know what they're playing. So, how do you grow spiritually? Through the knowledge. Moment we start gaining, so the point is, it's not 0 and 1. There is a gradual development of the understanding of life. So what do we need to do from our side? It is the investment of our time and effort. Every single day, we invest ourselves in the knowledge. Verify for ourselves, is it worth investing our time? Is it waste? You don't have to. But if you find it to be useful, invest yourself. And that's how slowly, gradually, the knowledge settles down in your personality and you see the effect of it. That should be natural. Moment we make something unnatural, that is not growth. That is something outgrowth. You have to treat it to remove it. But anything natural is not seen. It doesn't stand out. It is very much part of your personality. It becomes part of your personality. So similarly, so here he says, a very interesting concept, an infinite state of existence, knowledge, bliss is your essential being. You are that infinite existence, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss. Your intrinsic nature, yourself, Atman, which you constantly refer to as I am a child, I am a boy, I am a man, I am an old man. So we need to question, what is that I? What is that constant factor? Who am I? So if I say, I am this individual, this personality, this name, this fame, this personality is me. If I say that, this body, this mind, this intellect is mine. This is me. It's a variable. The body is changing. The body what I have now is not the same I had 15 years back, 20 years back, right? My mind is changed. Emotions have changed. But I have now is not the same I had 15 years, 20 years back, 25, 30 years back. It's not the same. My understanding of life is changed. All three are changing. How can I say that body, this mind, this intellect is my personality, this individuality, which is changing? This can't be me, right? I am not a changing factor. Today I am something, tomorrow I am something, day before I was something. I am not a changing factor. I'm a constant. In physics, to see a change, we need a constant, right? Two trains are moving at the same speed. We don't see the movement. Only with respect to a constant tree which is outside, we see a movement of the train. Two trains are moving at the same speed, there is no movement. We don't see the movement. We see the movement with respect to something constant, which is the tree outside. Similarly, if I am a variable, then everything is changing. How will I see a change? It's not so. I say I am a child, then I say I'm a boy, I'm a man, I'm an old man. I said that, right? Nobody else is saying it. So what is the constant in that? I am is the constant. I can't be the child, I can't be the boy, man, old man, all this is external, changing. But the constant factor is I am. I perceive, I feel, I think, right? My experience is based on perception at the level of the body, feeling at the level of the mind, thinking at the level of the intellect. I perceive, I feel, I think. It's changing. But what is constant? I is the constant. Perception is changing. Feeling is changing. Thinking is changing. But the awareness, the consciousness of the perception, awareness, conscience of the feeling, thinking is a constant. Same with respect to I am the waker, person in the waking state. I am the person in the dream state. I am the person in the sleep. It's another difficult concept. There's a chapter full dedicated on the states of consciousness where he talks about this waking, dream, and deep sleep. Right now, we are awake. Supposedly, I can't see any videos, but I'm assuming that people are awake. And when in the experience, waking experience, you are a waker is experiencing the waking world. If you are sleeping, any of one of you, in the dream, the dreamer is experiencing the dream world. In the deep sleep, deep sleeper is experiencing nothing. Waker right now is experiencing the waking world. When you go to sleep, it's not you, it is the dreamer which is experiencing a dream world, a complete, distinct and different parents you may have different siblings, you may have different family, different experiences. A dreamer is having that experience, a dream experience. And in the deep sleep, there's the experience of nothingness, right? So you are the person in the waking state. You are the person in the dream. I am in the person in the sleep. What is common? I am is common. That awareness of the waking state, that consciousness in the dream state, that consciousness sleep is constant. Don't worry, this is a difficult concept. We will be covering it later. But since it's there, I'm just covering it. So the point, what is important to note is the I never leaves you. That constant, remember, this is a very valuable point. You are the constant in all the variables. I am the constant in all the variables. That is I am. That is the consciousness. That is reality. That is God. That is what you call Brahman, Atman. These are just words. Allah, Vaheguru, Bhagwan, all these are words. They all are referring to the constant in the variables. So moment we hold on to the constant, you got it. What happens is we go to the variables. What are the variables? Perception, emotions, and thoughts. Those are variables. Today I perceive something, tomorrow I perceive something else. Variables. Today I feel something, tomorrow I feel something else. Thinking, thoughts are changing. So moment I shift my focus from the variable to the constant, to the extent I'm able to shift the focus, to that extent I feel a sense of peace. That is spiritual growth. So, nevertheless, the self has been with you forever. You can never lose it. Nevertheless, you believe you have lost the self. You feel bound by the limitation of your body, mind, and the intellect, and the persecuted by the ever changing world. This is an erroneous belief. The truth remains that you are eternally free, never bound, never harassed by the world. All the bondage and harassment you go through as are as imaginary as that of your dream. You may dream that you are suffering from penury and starvation, but it is all your imagination, brought about by the ignorance of your waking state. In fact, there's a story which somebody uses in the later part, which is from one of the Upanishad, the story of the dream. So, King Janaka had a dream. King Janaka was a ruler and he was a successful king. And he had a dream in the night that he is a beggar. Starvation, he's starving, he is in penury, he is begging in the streets. Now, he woke up in the middle of the night and he called his cabinet ministers. He called all the fellows and said, I had a dream that I was a beggar. So the famous question of King Janaka was, am I the king who's imagining myself to be the beggar, or am I the beggar who is now imagining myself to be the king? Because that intensity of the experience was so real for him, he could not segregate, differentiate between what he is going through as a beggar and as a king. So he woke up and said, who am I? Am I the king who actually dreamed as a beggar? Or maybe I am just a beggar who is now dreaming to be a king. Who am I? What's my real personality? So to that famous question, no ministers could answer it. And weeks passed by, they could not find any answer. So the king was serious. He said that I want an answer. So then they found a sage called Ashtavakra. Ashtavakra means 8 deformity. A sage, a self-realized master who was born with 8 deformities called Ashtavakra. So he came, he was brought to the king, and then the king asked the same question with the same intensity after weeks together and said, Sir, am I the king who dreamt to be a beggar, or am I a beggar who is dreaming to be a king? Who am I? What's my real identity? To that, the famous answer of Ashtavakra is, he said, you are neither the king, you are nor the beggar, nor the deep sleeper. The waker is the king, dreamer was a beggar, deep sleeper was nothing. You have nothing to do with the kingship, being a beggar, or the experience of nothingness. You are beyond it. You are what you are. You are the self. You are the Brahman. You are the reality. That's what he's saying. You are ever free, ever blissful. You are never bound. So when you understand, gain the knowledge of the absolute, you automatically reach the state of absolute fulfillment, absolute knowledge, absolute wisdom, and the rest. So we'll conclude by, so there's a beautiful story which talks about, which we'll take up in the next class. It's a very interesting story, and then we get into the understanding in Bhagavad Gita. We conclude with this. Thank you.